Springboks 32, France 17. A second half for the ages. Down to 14 men. A red card to Loic de Jager in the 40th minute. The Boks trailing by 1 point at halftime. Came back in the second half. Absorbed all the pressure. And then put it all back on France. And I mean, to win by 15 points in the end is absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. And I mean, it was just the way we managed to withstand the pressure, the defensive effort. Tell you what, Jerry Flannery's going to get all the beverages this evening, and he deserves it because, wow. Wow, 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 wow. I mean, to go down to 14 men and concede 3 points in the entire second half is huge. And then you go and you put in that performance is, I mean, I'm still trying to sort of come down from it, to be honest. But let's get into it, shall we? Let's look at exactly what happened. And we're going to go look at the timeline and kind of break the game down to you. So things all started very early. Disaster start, really, from the Boks, to be perfectly honest. Early try from Damien Penaud. Conversion by Thomas Ramos. All of a sudden, the Boks 7-0 down within 5 minutes. Not the way you wanted to start. Thankfully, as per usual, our scrum came good and our scrum dominated. And penalties, a couple of penalties came your way. Sasha managed to add extras. We then saw an HRA as Loic de Jager made way for Ruan Nokia. That would become permanent after the red card, but he did manage to get back on. And a couple of penalties there, 9th minute, 13th minute. But then a bang again. And the frustrating thing is in the first half, France didn't really have the opportunities. I think we were still playing more rugby than they were. But they were taking their chances consistently, really, really consistently. And I think that's the frustrating thing, is that we just didn't take our chances when they were there. And all of a sudden, we're sort of trailing 14 points to 6. And we're going, how? How are we trailing? Look, Sasha did miss 2 penalties. One difficult one I think you should be getting. But I mean, we sat there, I think, genuinely about 28 minutes going, how are we down? How are we down by 9 points? 8 points. How are we down by 8 points? We shouldn't have been down with the way we were playing. Big call, though, here in the 32nd minute. I'm going to highlight that. Is that Gerard Sennekamp replaced Bowen Fenton. Now, obviously, we won, so it's easy to say it was the right call. But I think that was harsh on Bowen Fenton, in all honesty. I mean, I think he had the better of his man. I think he was scrumming quite well. But they made a big call and they put on Gerard Sennekamp. A minute later, we saw a individual brilliance from Kobus Reinach. Couple of racks, bit of space, bang, dummy got in between 2 forwards, chipped and chased, over he goes, converted by Sasha, all of a sudden, back in the game. Back in the game, 14 points to 13, where it stood for a while. Red card to Loic de Jager. Now, it's an interesting red card. Because the problem is, because it was a straight red card, it wasn't under 20 minutes, it was a full Vidacomas red card. Now, the red card was basically, he ran into Thomas Ramos with his left arm tucked in, right arm wrapped, left arm tucked in. Thomas Ramos, there was a massive, massive drop in height. Now, the justification for the red card is that because it was always an illegal action, inverted commas, there's no mitigation that can be applied. The frustrating thing I think a lot of people are saying is that those sort of tackles, happen. Scott Berger actually said 90 times a game. I'm not sure it's quite that many, but it does. But because there was such a quick drop in height from Thomas Ramos, who's on his knees, there was a shoulder-to-head contact, straight red to Loic de Jager, which meant we would then play the remainder of the game with 14 men. And that was always going to be a big ask. And apparently, so Khaleesi got sacrificed in the second half. Apparently, he basically volunteered to go off. Apparently, he basically said, listen, it makes the most sense to take me off. I'll go off. On his 100th game. And if that's true, and I'm hoping that Rassie will touch on the press conference, that just shows you why this Boks team is so special. That your captain on his 100th test at halftime says, if I have to go off for this red card, I will go off. And he came on in his jacket looking upset, but jeepers, he did not sit down the entire game. They were up and he was shouting and he was encouraging. I mean, you could just see it meant so much to this team. This result meant absolutely everything to them. They were on their feet the entire half, the bench, going after them. So We were in a clear place at half time, and we saw the French bomb squad come on, and they got a penalty in the 59th minute. I mean, we managed to take 20 minutes where we were under a lot of pressure and not concede. And that, for me, I think was probably that was step one, wasn't it? Because that was the thing. If you concede and all of a sudden momentum grows with France, you're in a lot of trouble. The fact that we did not concede a try in the second half and only conceded 3 points for the first time in the 59th minute was the difference. Grant Williams comes on the 60th minute. Monty Liba comes in the 57th minute. Also, leaving Sasha on, going to fullback. Also a big call. Then we start kicking into gear. 63 minutes. We get a penalty advantage. Monty Liba throws one of the Monty Liba cut-up passes. Leo Barry comes off, touches it as it's going into Jesse Creel's hands. Jesse Creel, I think if he had taken it, would have gone over. And he gets a yellow card. From that, we then go over. Andre Heste is a little more try, becoming a little bit of a habit for the man. And missed the conversion, unfortunately. But then penalty straight after that from the scrum, back in the French territory, back on the front foot. And Monty Liba, just a small moment, had a phenomenal little kick where he was almost on the halfway line, and he just sort of swung it out and put ourselves on the 5-meter line. We had a line out, went down, penalty advantage, went back to it. We then had another more, and the ball just popped up, and Grant Williams looked up, saw a half gap, and just cruised straight through it, and he dove over, and all of a sudden, bang, in the lead. Here we go. We're back, boys. And then just to put a little bit of sprinkles on the cake, bit of a loose ball. They go to the wide. Monty Liba just pops it up on the shoulder as Sasha's coming around. Sasha lines the man up, throws the dummy. He goes over, and off we go. 32 points to 17. And I mean, 4 tries to 2, 2 conversions apiece, 2 penalties. But I mean, to win that game in that fashion, after being down to 14 men for our half, is phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. You know, and we're going to look at some of the stats here. Fewer carries. Basically the same amount of meters run. Usually we've been topping these meters, by the way. Fewer clean breaks. Fewer offloads. Fewer passes. Less possession. We talk about Tony ball and us being on the front foot, for example, and the likes of that. Today we didn't necessarily play Tony ball, but we just managed to understand when it was on and when it wasn't. We went to the forwards. We still managed to dominate them up front, and we just use what we're good at. You look at defensively, for example, tackle success rate wasn't great, but conceding 2 tries, soft tries, but that second half, phenomenal effort. 14 men, by the way, for the entire second half, and conceding just the 3 points. Set plays, phenomenal. Lineouts, we didn't miss a beat. Scrums, we did not miss a beat. Discipline, a few penalties in the first half. We cleaned that up in the second half as well. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that, to be honest. So in general, what a game. In terms of individual performances, Malcolm Marx, you rock my world. What a game from him. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I thought Ruben Okia came on, put in a big shift. Peter Steph Toy put in a big shift. Damien Delende, before he went off, put in a big shift. Grant Williams, Monty Liba, they came on and made a difference. They did. And it wasn't a game where I think there was too many phenomenal standout individual performances, but just in general, everyone seemed to contribute. And that's just what made it such a phenomenal game. And probably one of the best games I've watched in terms of just the sheer grit. It wasn't that watchable from a product point of view, but from the grit and what it meant to the box, absolutely incredible.